And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, I just finished posting the podcast of the 1 o'clock hour, where if you didn't hear it, you can listen to Johnny's interview with U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley and that call we took from Clifton.
Do you understand what I'm telling you, man?
800-222-5222 is telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Well, we know there's a lot of useless legislation coming from Sacramento. And every time I see something totally ridiculous, I think, okay, this one takes the cake. But, Randy, this one actually might be the bakery.
This is what's funny, is Sacramento passes so many bills every single year, it's just impossible to be able to cover them all and track them all, even with all the local news outlets in Southern California, Northern California, Sacramento. It just can't be done. So every July, a whole bunch of new laws take effect, and you're like, what? And the latest one builds on something we talked about a year ago. Johnny, do you remember about a year ago we talked about a bill that was passed in California that said every single bar has to provide testing strips to make sure your drink didn't get roofied?
Oh, yes. How could I forget that?
Well, apparently that didn't go far enough, because last year the California legislature also passed a bill that now says when you're in a bar and you order a drink, you get a lid if you want one to make sure nobody can roofie your drink.
Okay. Let's break this down for a second. What is your go-to cocktail of choice right now, Randy?
Margarita or a straight-up añejo.
Okay, so we're dealing with tequila on the rocks, usually with a lime, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, or a tequila or a margarita, which usually has a salted rim, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I like Scotch on the rocks. At home, I typically just drink Dewar's, the cheap stuff that they sell on American Airlines in a little bottle. I'm very familiar with these glasses. I've had a lot of experience with these glasses. At home, in restaurants, bars, planes, trains, no automobiles. That's illegal. But everywhere else. Have you ever once in your entire life seen a lid on a margarita with a salted rim?
That's going to be tough.
Have you ever once seen someone order a Scotch on the rocks at a bar and said, could I please have a lid on that?
Does that mean it's going to have a little straw, or is it going to be like those lids at Starbucks where it's like you're drinking out of a 2-year-old sippy cup?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I think there is at least one time in human history where someone ordered a drink in a sippy cup. Because there was a story, and you can look this up to fact check me to make sure I'm telling it correctly, where a child ordered an apple juice at a chain restaurant in a sippy cup. And they accidentally gave the child an alcoholic beverage. And the child, midway through the meal, kept getting up and running directly into the wall, falling over, getting up, walking directly into the wall again, falling over, getting up, walking directly into the wall again. And that's when the parents looked in the cup and saw that it was full of booze.
Oh, boy.
I think it was at an Applebee's. And I thought, how did that happen? How do you even put booze in a child's cup?
This was at an Applebee's in 2011.
Okay, I think Doug McIntyre did the story. I distinctly remember that. You know why it made national news?
Why is that?
Because no adult ever orders an alcoholic drink with a lid on top of it. It doesn't happen. Even in places where you spill all the time, like concerts and sports venues, they still don't serve it with a lid.
When you order one of those, when you're at brunch at a restaurant that's got a really big menu and they've got those really extravagant Bloody Marys where they got the stalk of celery and they've got the olive and they've got the stick of bacon or stick of beef jerky, how are you putting a lid on that?
The only time I've ever gotten booze with a lid on it is when you order it at the golf course. And that's because you put it in your golf cart and you're driving around and you hit a bunch of bumps, and if you don't have the lid on top of it, it'll go flying everywhere. But unless you're a real alcoholic, you're not ordering scotch on the rocks on the golf course.
You know, I can think of one place where I have had alcohol with the lid on it, and it's went to go see a show at the Amundsen Theater in downtown L.A. You can order wine and beer at the bar, but if you order the wine, they give it to you in what looks like a 2-year-old sippy cup because they don't want you spilling on the fancy seats while you watch your Broadway show.
The only time people willingly put their booze in a cup with a lid on it is when you're trying to conceal the fact that you're drinking alcohol.
Like when you put vodka in the water bottle for the movie theater?
Oh, yeah. I was at Disneyland over the weekend. I saw a lot of water bottles that people kept mixing in with their soda.
Well, this new legislation would make it so if anybody requests it, the bar has to make available lids for cocktails and spirits and wine and beer because, Johnny, we don't want people getting roofied out there.
Okay. If you're on a blind date and your blind date is the one person who requests a lid for their cocktail, they think you're going to rape them later.
It's not a good sign.
No, it's kind of a giveaway or a tell, as they say.
For more on the new bill that's supposed to stop roofing in California, here is ABC 23 in the Central Valley.
Fighting drink spiking has always been a concern, but now California is putting a lid on it, literally.
Okay, I'll give him a pass on that one.
I'm Raquel Kahlo here at a local bar where a new law is set to take effect July 1st, requiring lids on alcoholic beverages if customers ask.
You imagine you're sitting at the bar and a guy comes up, says, "Hey, can I buy you a drink?" And she's like, "Sure. Can I get a lid on that one?"
Why, you planning on going somewhere? No, you look like you have a history, though.
According to California's alcoholic beverage control, about 2,400 bars and nightclubs statewide will be required to offer drink lids upon request. The rule expands on last year's law mandating drink spiking test kits and signage that reads, "Don't get roofied."
Guess that didn't work.
No, as it so happens, the rapists don't pay attention to the sign.
Don't get roofied. Drink lids and drink spiking drug test kits available here. Ask a staff member for details.
Not this radio station, not the radio station I used to work at before that, but apparently at the radio station, the first radio station I ever worked at, when they were at an old dumpy building, there was a poster in the men's bathroom that said, it didn't say this.
Don't get roofied.
But it said the opposite of that for the offender. The poster said, don't rape.
Well, that's distilling it down to the nuts and bolts.
Not sure why that was in the men's bathroom of a radio station in Los Angeles, but allegedly it was.
Public service announcement.
Don't get roofied. Drink lids and drink spiking drug test kits available here. Ask a staff member for details.
You want to make sure that their drinks is protected, taken care of, because you hear about like all this, everything that happens, and you just want to make sure like our girls, our guys, our kids, our friends, everybody is protective.
Wait, the kids are getting roofied?
Okay, so that woman has a room temperature IQ, and she's a bartender? Usually bartenders are smarter than that. I have long been saying this. The smartest people on planet Earth are bartenders, people who cut hair for a living, and truck drivers. Because the bartenders and the people who cut hair for a living talk to everyone, so they know what's going on. They've heard a little bit about everything, and they know what's going on in the world around them. The truck drivers, they got a lot of alone time. They listen to a lot of radio shows. They listen to a lot of podcasts. They talk to people on the speakerphone. They're aware of the world around them. This is the first dumb bartender I've ever heard of. Well, besides AOC.
Our girls, our guys, our kids, our friends, everybody is protective.
Eileen Bernal, a Bakersfield resident and former bartender of 3 years, says this added safety measure could go a long way.
That cover is going to be so mind-blowing and game-changing.
But the cover has to have like a straw, and couldn't you just drop the Mickey down the straw hole?
Or how about this? When they go to the bathroom, which is typically when I think this happens, you just pull the lid off the cup and you put it in and then you put the lid down, only now you can't see a powdery substance in the drink.
Although I got to imagine that draws a little more attention when you're trying to slip something in someone's drink.
No, I don't think so. In fact, I think it would draw less attention. People put Equal, they put Splenda, they put sugar in their drinks all the time. If you get a drink with a lid on it, I would assume it's iced tea.
I visited more bars across Bakersfield and spoke with community member Luz Rincon about her thoughts on the new law.
Do you think she got a per diem when she was researching this story?
It's possible. 2-for-1 Tuesday.
Just to get the real experience, I'm going to have to order a drink at every single one of these bars to see what the glassware looks like when they bring it out to me and what it would look like with a sippy cup lid.
Let's see if the assignment editor will give me a budget to get blackout drunk.
I visited more bars across Bakersfield and spoke with community member Luz Rincon about her thoughts on the new law.
I think the law was made with good intentions.
She tells me that sadly, staying alert has become second nature when going out.
Whenever I go out with my friends,
Are these the kind of measures we have to take because we don't want to put a certain portion of the population in prison?
I think so. And how about this? If the ladies of Bakersfield are going out with rapists right and left, how about picking different guys? If they're so obvious that they're up to no good, why not just avoid meeting them at the bar at all?
whenever I go out with my friends, I make sure to keep an eye on my own drink. And if I see anybody suspicious hanging around me or another girl, somebody in my group, I keep an eye on them.
We need to go a little further than the cocktail napkin on the top of the drink when you go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and if she's out with her girls and she sees someone suspicious hanging around, my guess it's baby daddy number one for one of them.
Making a lot of assumptions of the people in this story, Johnny.
How much do you want to bet I'm right?
No comment.
According to a Cal Matters report, 18% of adults globally say they've had their drink spiked among...
That's pretty high.
Okay, here's the thing, though. I didn't think we would ever have to have this conversation together, Randy, but now is the time. People who drink more than they're willing to admit to always claim that they were roofied when they do something stupid. Remember when the radio station, I think this may have been before you, when the radio station had an event in Las Vegas, different ownership, and someone in sales did a face plant on a table after they had too much to drink and they knocked themselves out cold silly? I think the rumor was that someone did something to their drink because they only had 2 drinks. Now, they refilled them 500 times, but they only had 2 cups in their possession. So someone had to be up to something nefarious. I can't tell you the number of times people who I know are functioning alcoholics say, that really wasn't me that, knocked down your Christmas tree and lit everything in your living room on fire. I'm not like that when I drink. I'm under control. I know where I'm going. I stop at my limit. So I don't know. I just, I had 1 or 2 or maybe 3. I not many. I was drinking socially, for heaven's sake. And then all of a sudden, I knock over your Christmas tree and I puked in one of your kids' stockings. That is also not me. That was someone trying to do something very bad to me.
That wasn't me. That was the GHB.
That was a GHB. That came from some pharmacy in Mexico that someone picked up on one of those weekend cruises to Ensenada because they planned on coming back here and doing something very bad to me. That's also the reason I broke every single one of your taillights. Now, I know it looked like I was mad at you when I did it, and I was cursing your name and woke up the neighbors. But that was also the drugs talking. That wasn't me. I know I have 4 or 5 DUIs, but that's in the past, and I took care of those. I served my debt to society, and I moved on. So it had to be the drugs.
According to a Cal Matters report, 18% of adults globally say they've had their drink spiked. Among college students, the figure is 8%. And in Long Beach alone, police recorded about 25 drink spiking reports last year.
What the hell, Long Beach?
That's a lot. If that's true, I bet you it's one guy.
That's where I am supportive of providing things that are going to benefit our patrons to make sure that they're safe, because I've gone through that experience and I've had it happen to me.
That guy got roofied?
Oh, come on. Him too? Is there anyone in Bakersfield who hasn't been drugged?
Michael Velasquez, owner of the Hideout Bar and Club, says they're covering the cost of lids for now, but that could change if it becomes a financial strain.
It's going to be, because you're going to have to buy a whole bunch of stuff that nobody's going to order, but it'll be required by the state of California. Just like last year when the state of California ordered that all bars have to buy their own Narcan.
Well, I don't even think it's going to be that easy. I think you're going to have to go begging some factory in China to make them. They don't make lids for glasses that you put scotch on the rocks in.
We continue to provide an atmosphere that is safe for everyone to be able to come and enjoy a good time, not have to worry about the negative things that other people do.
Overall, Velasquez says the goal is to give people peace of mind while enjoying a night out.
We can't control everything, but we can do something.
Is this going to be effective?
Oh, yeah. I would love to know the story about what happened to him after he was drugged at the bar.
The new rule, AB 2375, goes into effect July 1st of this year and will remain in place for a 2-year trial period.
I think she stuck around for happy hour.
What happened to you, sir, when you got drugged at the bar? Well, as it so happens, those drugs were powerful. In fact, those drugs caused me to unload a firearm into the sky after my soccer team won the game. And then after that, I reloaded and unloaded the rest in my ex-wife's car.
And will remain in place for a 2-year trial period, January 1st, 2027. For 23 ABC, I'm Raquel Kahlo, your neighborhood reporter.
Wait, so this only goes into effect for a year and a half, and then we say you don't need the lids anymore?
Okay, so just when the factories start making them, we cut it off.
This is what happens when you have a full-time legislature, folks. This is one of 1,000 bills that got passed last year that go into effect in July.
And when your alcoholic friends claim that they were drugged and that's why they acted like animals, just smile and be polite, but know what the truth actually is. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is get our podcast.
Do you understand what I'm telling you, man?
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
790 KABC welcomes Dispatch and John Butler with band at the Pacific Amphitheater at the OC Fair on July 26th. Part of the Toyota Summer Concert Series. Tickets on sale now at packamp.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. All concert tickets include admission to the OC Fair. Tickets furnished by the Pacific Amphitheater. Good luck dialing.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. AB5 was an initiative that was put forth by Lorena Gonzalez and company to go after organizations like Uber and Lyft, the ride-sharing companies that rely on independent contractors and not employees. The unions don't like that model, and through AB5, they were fighting back. Well, AB5 wasn't just about Uber drivers and Lyft drivers. Randy, it's now hitting the nail salons.
There were a whole lot of industries that got exemptions from AB5 when it was enacted. Some of them were permanent exemptions, but some of them were temporary exemptions. And at the end of this year, manicurists up and down the state will no longer be independent contractors, which could make it a hell of a lot harder for manicurists to make a living in California. For more on this, we go to Fox 40 in Sacramento.
Dr. Eitan Wallace spoke to a concerned Elk Grove manicurist and has reaction from an assembly member seeking to address this issue head on.
That's our coach there. It's a busy day at work for Priscilla Nguyen. She's a manicurist at Verona Nail Lounge in Elk Grove, just south of Sacramento.
Did Eitan get a per diem?
Oh, can you imagine if he comes back with French nails?
I mean, is he just going to sit there sticking out his microphone, or is he going to get some work done?
Oh, and when you go into those nail shops and they have those chairs that massage your back while your feet are in the warm water, I would have missed my deadline.
I love what I do. I love my clients. I enjoy coming to work.
Part of the reason for that, she says, is because for many years, she's been classified as an independent contractor, meaning she can rent her own booth in the salon, set her own hours, and retain her own clients. As a working mom, she says that gives her more freedom.
I have kids at home, so if I could work for myself, I could set my own schedule, set time for my clients to come in, and my day will be more flexible.
But she's concerned she and many other manicurists could soon be out of work, all because of a key state law.
I believe Lorena Gonzalez's bill keeps hurting people years and years and years later.
Oh, yeah, and she keeps posting pictures of herself drunk in her hot tub in a bikini.
So is she still married, or what's up there?
Who knows?
In 2019, the legislature passed AB 5, classifying workers in certain fields as employees as opposed to independent contractors. Backers of AB 5 said its goal was to protect workers and make sure they can receive proper compensation and benefits.
How's that been working out, by the way?
Yeah, they had to go wreck all these people's lives for no reason.
But more than 100 industries and professions, including licensed estheticians, electrologists, barbers, and cosmetologists, all requested and were granted AB 5 exemptions that allowed them to remain classified as independent contractors indefinitely. California voters even passed a measure in 2022 allowing Uber and other rideshare drivers to stay on as independent contractors as well.
I've been doing this.
That one really pissed off Lorena.
Oh, it did.
I was looking through my drops folder. Do I have any drops of Lorena Gonzalez? I have one.
And the number one crime in California, the number one crime in America when it comes to burglary or theft, it's wage theft.
Oh, yeah, she has her head screwed on straight.
I've been doing this for 20 years.
But licensed manicurists were left off that list. They were granted only temporary approval to be classified as independent contractors, a classification that for them will expire this year, angering them and GOP Assemblymember Tree Ta.
So what, now the manicurists have to be 9 to 5ers and have a mandatory lunch break and all the other nonsense?
Well, this is how it works in Sacramento. You pass some law that's draconian and awful, you realize it's a disaster, and then you sell the exemptions from the bad law. So if you've got the money and you've got the juice, you can buy the exemption. If you don't have the money and you don't have the juice, you can't buy the exemption. And I would imagine that many people who work in these nail salons are immigrants. They're people who don't have a lot of money. They're not particularly organized like the unions are and other trade industries are. So they're on their own, and they're just getting stomped all over with unmanicured nails.
This is like when Gavin Newsom and the legislature got forth with NDAs and all of the big fast food bigwigs and the big unions and hammered out that deal for $20 an hour minimum wage, but exempted places that make and bake their own bread, like Panera Bread.
I hope these manicurists all band together and ban Lorena Gonzalez from every single nail salon in the entire state of California. And she can do her own hooves.
And GOP Assemblymember Tree Ta.
Unfair treatment. So that's going to have a negative impact to the whole nail industry.
But he hopes to avert that with his bill, AB 504. It aims to allow...
Yeah, that won't pass.
Nope. Lorena will never let that happen.
It aims to allow licensed manicurists to remain classified as independent contractors indefinitely, all in an industry a UCLA study found among manicurists in California, 82% are Vietnamese Americans. For Ta,
they do good nails.
Just leave them alone, for heaven's sake. They're making a living doing something they like.
For Ta, it's personal. He himself is an immigrant from Vietnam who, before his election to...
Oh, I thought it was personal because he was a manicurist. I guess not.
No. He's an assemblyman. By the way, Listen to this story. The people with the most common sense in this story are the manicurists. The people who do nothing but sit around inhaling poisonous fumes from 9 to 5, 7 days a week, have more sense than the members of the California legislature.
He himself is an immigrant from Vietnam who, before his election to the Assembly in the city of Westminster, he was elected the nation's first Vietnamese-born mayor. Without his bill, he believes the Vietnamese community will suffer.
It is a financial hardship for the Vietnamese manicurists. They no longer have an opportunity to work in the industry as independent contractor.
He's now supporting a lawsuit against the state alleging discrimination against the Vietnamese community.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, use their own tools against them. I like it.
But as for his bill in the legislature, he's angered Assembly Democratic leaders, including Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas, have not brought Ta's bill up for a hearing, despite assurances every bill will be heard.
Robert Rivas loves to play games, but will not get out there and defend anything he does.
No, he's another one, by the way, where you hear Speaker of the Assembly, the man who's in charge of California's legislative body, and you think he's this impressive kind of guy, and then you hear him on the radio or you see him on TV, and you go, this guy is remedial.
I really frustrated that my AB 504 doesn't have a hearing. It's totally wrong.
And we reached out to the Speaker's office to ask why Ta's bill has not been granted a committee hearing. But as of now, we've received no answer. Reporting at the state capitol, covering local news that matters, Tom Wallace, Fox 40 News.
So there you go. The specter of AB5 continues to decimate industries because here we are all these years later, and the temporary exemptions that manicurists had is running out.
Well, I mean, here's what's going to happen. They're going to have to band together, and they're going to have to pony up some money, and they're just going to have to pay off who's ever in charge. That's how business works in a one-party state. You're going to have to find out whatever the ask is, negotiate something that's acceptable, and pay off the proper people.
Yeah, but this isn't like some huge organized community. It's not like there's a big nail out there.
No, but they're going to have to hire some political consultant, and they'll tell them who has the juice to get it done, which is completely insane. If you know the bill is wrecking every single industry, so you just have to sell exemptions to the industries, then just get rid of the bill. But here in the insane asylum, that's not how things work, and they can't make money off of that. They make money off of selling the exemptions. So basically what the Speaker and others are saying to them is you haven't ponied up enough money yet. Once you pony up enough money, we'll give you your exemption. They probably didn't have as much money as the other industries, so they got the temporary exemption and not the permanent one. The other industries got the permanent one. So now they're going to have to pony up again. But there's been inflation since when the others got their permanent exemption. So they're probably going to want to charge them more. What a way to run a state. Home sweet home. One of the times when El Chapo escaped from prison, they found an underground tunnel that led him from his prison cell to a location where the tunnel not only worked, but it had electricity and air conditioning so he would be comfortable when he escaped from the prison. And then we found out that there are these tunnels all over the place, not just from prisons in Mexico to alternate locations, but across the border. And that's how they get a lot of the drugs and some of the people into the United States. Well, Randy, they just found another one right here in California.
There was a tunnel discovered that went from Tijuana all the way to the other side of the border. Let's find out more from NBC7 in San Diego.
U.S. Border Patrol agents say they uncovered a drug smuggling tunnel that extended for nearly 3,000 feet from Tijuana and underneath the Otay Mesa port of entry.
NBC7's Brooke Martell joins us now from the port of entry. And Brooke, where do agents say the tunnel was actually going to end on the U.S. side of the border?
Mark and Monica, we don't have that exact location, but U.S. Border Patrol says that exit point would have been nearby or within a nearby warehouse within this general area. Now, where I'm standing,
it's like an express line.
It's about 2,100 feet from the point of origin of where that tunnel began in Tijuana. These are the first images we're seeing of the tunnel that was discovered under a portion of the Otay Mesa port of entry in early April. Nearly 40 inches in height and 30 inches wide, and in some areas 50 feet deep, the tunnel had electrical wiring, lighting, a ventilation system, and a track that could transport contraband.
It's like they've been mining.
Yeah, I know.
On Monday, Border Patrol agents alerted Mexican authorities of their discovery, leading to the point of origin.
They have like a special hotline when they call Mexico, hey, found another tunnel.
How many of these things do you think exist?
Tons.
How can we not spot them if they have lighting and electricity and air conditioning?
Well, they're underground.
Yeah, but with AI, they can't figure that out.
Leading to the point of origin under freshly laid tile.
I mean, AI can do a lot of things. It doesn't have Superman's X-ray vision yet.
Give it a couple of months.
Leading to the point of origin under freshly laid tile at a home in Nueva in a Tijuana neighborhood.
Probably all along the border with the U.S., Otay Mesa has the characteristics to build narco tunnels.
Victor Clark, a professor at San Diego State University and the director of the National Center for Human Rights in Tijuana, weighed in on why this tunnel was constructed here.
The type of soil.
This guy's a narco tunnel expert?
I didn't know there was that specialty.
The type of soil, the urban noise, a lot of traffic on the area. We have a port of entry.
You want to have a really busy area so you don't notice the jackhammering going on.
What's going on in that neighborhood where they don't notice jackhammering?
Where not only vehicles cross daily, thousands of them, pedestrians, and also trucks cross to the U.S. And also we have an international airport on the Mexican side with around 130 flights daily.
Since the 90s, U.S. Border Patrol.
So build this thing under a port of entry that's got a lot of noise and a lot of traffic and under an airport, and no one will notice.
So what are you doing over at your house there, Bob? Well, I'm remodeling my bathroom, so you may hear some noise for a while. Well, we've been hearing jackhammering for about 4.5 months. Yeah, I'm doing a new shower and bathtub.
Since the 90s, U.S. Border Patrol says nearly 100 of these tunnels have been decommissioned.
100!
There you go.
Clark says drug traffickers started building more sophisticated narcotic smuggling tunnels in the early 2000s. Since then,
I'm really shocked that they go to all this trouble when you can literally just put drugs in your checked luggage and fly to LAX.
You notice that when you enter Disneyland, there are drug-sniffing dogs right there at the gate? Who's smuggling drugs into Disneyland?
Typically, what they like to do is do the drugs and then get into Disneyland. You do the drugs in the parking lot. They take effect once you check in. And then it's time for Mickey on Molly.
Well, you bring the drugs into Disneyland. What's the point of that? Are you selling it to Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Daisy and Goofy?
Since then, their use has become more uncommon.
There is no reason to build a narco tunnel investing $1 million to $4 million when you can cross small amounts of fentanyl through the port of entries of...
Tunnel expensive. Balloon that goes you know where? Very cheap.
Oh, yeah. And with fentanyl, you don't really need that much of it.
In this case of San Isidro or Otay.
Clark says these tunnels are for narcotics, not a path for migrants from Mexico to the U.S.
Drug traffickers don't want...
I mean, it's a pretty short tunnel. They'd have to crawl if they were using it for that.
Yeah, no kidding.
People spread information, in this case, in the case of migrants, from where do they cross?
U.S. Border Patrol says thousands of pounds of concrete will be poured into the tunnel to prevent it from being used. From Otay Mesa Port of Entry, I'm Brooke Martell, NBC7.
There you go. Another tunnel discovered under the Otay Mesa border crossing.
I'll tell you, when AI gets sophisticated enough to see what's going on underneath the ground, I bet you we're going to find thousands and thousands and thousands of these things. But as you said, it's not as if they need them. You can bring anything you want through LAX, except a tube of toothpaste.
3 ounces of liquid, you're done. But you can check. There was a whole report about this. It was a massive piece from David Ono on ABC7 where you can check pretty much anything, and LAX doesn't even care to look. So go nuts.
I remember one time I was going through LAX, and they confiscated my deodorant and my toothpaste. And I thought to myself, okay, do you really want to send me to another country with no deodorant or toothpaste? Is that really something that's going to benefit the world?